A joyful and hearty pleroma-filled hello to everyone. This is your host, Damien, for another episode of Through a Scanner Gnostically. I will be reading one of my Medium articles. This one is called Through a Scanner Gnostically, Part 3, Purifying the Four Bodies from the Defilements of Archontic Programming. The practices I use to keep my avatar aligned with source energy. All right. So we have an introduction here. Defilements, the organic matrix, and the false matrix. I recover the awareness of the fullness of spirit, which acts as a microcosm for the fullness of the pleroma, by releasing all that keeps me from realizing the fullness of spirit. What is keeping me from realizing the fullness of spirit? In a word, defilements, or what in Buddhism are called kleshas. According to the Encyclopedia of Buddhism, kleshas are mental states that cloud the mind and manifest in unwholesome actions. Kleshas include states of mind such as anxiety, fear, anger, jealousy, desire, depression, etc. In this Buddhist website, which I'll put a link to, the author lists 108 different defilements that can afflict the human mind. In my perspective of Gnosticism, these defilements are not a part of the original paradigm or matrix of this earthly plane. They are instead part of the program of the false matrix, engineered by the archons. A matrix is a field of reality that we play in using our spirit's avatar. We congregate in and play out certain games that we agree to before coming here. We get false matrices and we get organic matrices. An organic matrix is one created by Source, and there are multiple organic matrices out there, and in here. A false matrix is a synthetic copy of the organic matrix and is designed to trap souls for eternity, or until a spirit awakens and escapes on its own. Archons believe, since they have fallen so far from source consciousness or love, that they need to feed off of the light of other beings in order to survive. They're like vampires, but instead of blood, they feed off of our energy from the lower fourth dimension. An awakened human is basically a walking food source and battery for archons, and in order to keep humans unconscious of their true selves, the archons have programmed all these defilements within the four bodies of the avatar. These four principal bodies are the energy body, the emotional body, the mental body, and the physical gross body. The avatar is animated by spirit, and every avatar is animated by that same spirit. Spirit is the essence of the pleroma, or heaven, or source. However, each avatar is a unique expression of spirit and has its own personality, or ego. Egos get a lot of flack from the spiritual and psychological communities, which is understandable because the ego is the one acting out the defilement programs. But the ego, in such cases, is a victim of the programs and can be freed. Once freed, the ego is the most essential aspect of the avatar. It's what makes the avatar unique and interesting. An ego connected to its original source programming is free from the defilements, and instead of acting out archontic programming, it knows what its purpose is and it goes about fulfilling it. In the case of this specific false matrix, what Hindus call Maya or Samsara, many, if not most avatars, came here to free humanity entirely from the archontic force and to shut down the false matrix so we can get back to playing in the original organic source matrix. Many call this dynamic the ascension. So this next chapter is how I deprogram myself from the defilements of the four bodies. Defilements are not my ego, and they do not belong to my ego. So I know that when they arise, and I notice them with my attention or awareness, the primary tools of the ego, that they are not to be acted upon, entertained, or taken seriously as representing me in any way. The more I purify my avatar, the easier it is for my ego to perceive the true organic matrix of Source. The more I can act from that perception as a true being of light and love. Defilements in the mental body. When a negative thought knocks on the door of my awareness, such as, I could never do that, or why am I always broke, or she is such a bitch, like remember that time? I don't invite those thoughts in. Negative thoughts are like vampires. Once you let them in, they won't leave you alone. They will suck your energy, and they'll find that they will grow in power as you decrease in power. These thoughts are basically archontic vampire mosquitoes that will use your attention for nourishment. Often they will persist in feeding off of you from the unconscious state as you go about your day. They'll come to your attention when you are triggered by some external force. When you perseverate on these thoughts, you start building narratives. These narratives are actually just more and more archontic vampire mosquitoes swarming together and feeding on you some more, helping you build these toxic narratives, further ensuring that they have a food source and that you do not wake up to your fullness. Therefore, the response to known and unknown defilements is basically the same for me. So this is something I will say. In the name of my I Am Presence, and by and through the magnetic power of the sacred fire vested in me, I call forth my beloved spirit team led by Yeshua Christos and Mary Magdalene to support Aeon, Lord Garuda, and me in dissolving whatever it is I want dissolving. I imagine, which is the same as making so, Lord Garuda flapping his mighty wings and creating a vortex of wind energy that sweeps through my avatar, and the defilements are dissolved and absorbed by the Pleroma, or Mother Gaia, to act as fertilizer for her energy fields. This practice I do multiple times a day by incorporating the simple yet powerful Garuda Mudra, which is shown in the website linked above, and of course in this video here. I'll have a picture of it. Defilements in the emotional body include negative emotions like fear, anger, worry, anxiety, insecurity. When a negative emotion arises, often doing so from a trigger point, I catch it with my awareness as soon as possible. Emotions are very powerful and can sweep me away into negative thinking, and the two bodies, emotional and mental, will work together to distract my avatar from being aligned with spirit. And they can cause damage to both my energy and physical bodies if prolonged and repeated. If I go onto social media, for instance, and read something that immediately triggers an emotion like anger, I catch it and say, "Oh, hello, anger. Thanks for the energy. Garuda, transform with your wings this anger energy into love energy. Let it flow through my heart and let it be emitted as pure love to the source that triggered the emotion of anger." This would also be a good time to write in my journal about that trigger. The more I know what triggers me, and I have enough of them written down, then I can spend some time weeding my avatar by pulling the weeds at the root. The weeds represent my triggers. I weed my avatar's emotional body in a number of ways. My favorite way is to use my tuning fork that I've called Zayin, and it's tuned to 528 hertz. I use it as a magnetic vacuum cleaner. Zayin, set to vacuum mode, I'll say. Vacuum up all discordant, parasitic, and toxic emotions at their root. I move Zayin around me, and sometimes I even make a sucking noise because why not? I've found that the more I engage my childlike imagination, the more effective the practice. When I can't hear Zayin anymore, I lower him towards the earth and tap him again, this time saying, "Zayin, release the energy into Gaia as fertilizer for her energy fields." I repeat the practice 3 times. It should be noted that before doing any of these practices, I ground myself into presence by calling in my I Am Presence and my spirit team led by Yeshua Christos and Mary Magdalene. After weeding my avatar, I might wait a day or so before purposely engaging in behaviors that historically have triggered me. Then I conduct a little experiment. I see if I can go onto social media and read the same kinds of headlines or memes or whatever without them triggering me. If the trigger is still there, I will write it in my journal, noting that the roots of this particular trigger go deep, so I will need to do more weeding, perhaps asking for special gardening help with it from my spirit team. There are people in my life who have historically triggered me. One is my brother, who mirrors some of my most unwanted and embarrassing character traits. The need to be right is probably the strongest of those traits. He also seems to play the role of the persistent skeptic in my mind. The persistent skeptic isn't me, and it actually isn't even my brother. It's a powerful archontic force that persistently shows up whenever I'm engaging in almost anything metaphysical or spiritual. The personality the persistent skeptic takes is my brother. So now, whenever my awareness senses its presence or thinks his super negative skeptical thoughts, I use that as an opportunity to send my brother Reiki or love. "Oh, hi Micah. It's good to hear from you. Here, have some Reiki. I love you very much." Then I sweep up the debris of the negative skeptic thoughts with Garuda's wings and carry on with my activity. Defilements in the physical body. This is a tricky one because it depends on what defilement is taking place. Sickness and disease are generally caused by chronic defilements in the other bodies being persistently and regularly carried out by the ego and require more attention. The physical body is basically the communication system we can use to ferret out a variety of defilements. For me, the best alarm system my body has comes from my heart. In the case of a heart pang, which is kind of like a constricting in my upper left chest, I know that my body is warning me. It's saying, quit this behavior now and take a deep breath. If I don't, the tightness will continue. There were times when I would ignore my heart and continue to do that which was causing the constriction. In such cases, a panic attack could result. So now, I place my right hand over my heart and give it Reiki and ask, "What do you have to tell me, heart?" Basically, the body communicates its defilements in the most straightforward way. The more you pay attention to the subtle shifts, the little aches and pains, the various other sensations, the more you can establish a healthy communication and that way avoid sickness and disease. Defilements in the energy body. This is a tricky one too because most people are completely unaware of their energy body. We know when we are emotional and when we are overthinking and when our physical body isn't cooperating. But how does a defilement materialize in the energy level? First, let me summarize what the energy body is. The energy body is the subtlest and most foundational of the bodies, and its design allows for the optimum flow of energy. Synonyms for energy include, but are not limited to, prana, kundalini, chi, ki or reiki, ruach, and the Holy Spirit. Energy is what gives the body life. It is the spirit, basically, condensed to energy whose purpose is to activate the four bodies. The Hindus call the energy body the pranamaya kosha, and according to Sanskrit magazine, it is, quote, depicted by kundalini, sun and moon channels, and 7 chakras along the spinal column. Each one of the 7 chakras is responsible for controlling different organs in the human body at conscious and subconscious levels of mind. When awareness is extended to the superconscious state, then these chakras open up to perceive the new realities of universe and start illuminating by healing all the body functions. In yogic literature, the level of illumination and opening of these chakras is the basis for measuring the evolution of an individual's mind and soul. Unquote. Because the chakra system is so powerful in its original source design, the archons have had to spend considerable time and energy programming it to keep the kundalini dormant at the base of the spine while we distract ourselves with playing out the programs of the defilements. Combining Tibetan Buddhism with Gnosticism, I believe that the archons use the chakra system to block Kundalini's ascension, which would result in the individual's ascension theoretically, by programming each chakra with a particular defilement program. For the first chakra, the Muladhara or root chakra, the archons programmed separation from Source or Gaia. This resulting separation consciousness has plagued humanity for thousands of years and is the root cause of all suffering and violence. For the second chakra, or sacral chakra, the archons programmed greed. Greed is a feeling of wanting and needing to fill the void created by the defilement of the first chakra. Often this greed results in hoarding and insatiable sexual desire. For the third chakra, the Manipura or solar plexus chakra, the archons programmed ignorance, which manifests as a sort of aimlessness and a giving away of one's power. People who remain in jobs they hate and abusive relationships are running the program of ignorance. For the fourth chakra, the Anahata or heart chakra, the archons programmed envy and jealousy. Instead of loving our neighbor as ourselves, this programming triggers in us a need to compete with our neighbors. In this way, a person running the envy-jealousy program is constantly consumed in the material realm to try and fulfill himself, which never works, obviously. For the fifth chakra, Vishuddha, or throat, the archons programmed pride, which materializes as a kind of selfish dignity and a constant need to be right about everything. This need to be right can lead to violence, toxic relationships, and even war. For the sixth chakra, Ajna or third eye, the archons programmed distracting pleasures, which can materialize as narcissistic behaviors and endless pleasure seeking. The United States would be an accurate example of how this program is played out. Social media, too. This defilement leads to addiction of all kinds. The seventh chakra, Sahasrara or crown chakra, isn't so much programmed as it is constantly polluted by negative energies such as electromagnetic, Wi-Fi radiation, and the energies of our archonically programmed beings. We take in energy both from the root and crown chakra. There are many ways to remedy the defilements programmed into the chakra system by the archons. Meditation, breath work, exercise, mindfulness practices, and the like. The most effective practices for keeping my chakras balanced is Reiki and Qigong. Anyone can do Qigong. It's free and widely available. Qigong translates to energy work, and it is a series of movements and breathing practices designed to work on the energy body. I do all of these practices and more. Again, I incorporate Zayin, and I go through each chakra and vacuum out all defilements in a similar fashion explained before. Then I balance the chakra by replacing the defilements with a corrective energy. For instance, with the first chakra, I remind myself how connected I am to Source, how grounded I am to Mother Gaia. I imagine a luminescent cord of pure light connecting the base of my spine to the crystalline heart of Gaia. Oftentimes, it's one or two chakras that the defilement is more acutely felt. For me, my throat chakra has been the most corrupted, as I was killed in past lives multiple times for speaking my truth. I am being called again in this lifetime to speak my truth, and I can recognize a lot of resistance to that idea. I spent a lot of time intellectualizing the truth during my time as a college English instructor, but that kind of truth isn't satisfying my life's purpose. It's the truth of love that needs expression, and in order to fully embody that energy, I must live in a state of presence, free from the multitudes of archonic programming. You don't have to believe in any of the archon aspects of life if it feels so far-fetched and crazy for you. The practices are still invaluable. For me, learning about the Gnostic perspective has helped me to embrace my ego rather than trying to kill or subdue or otherwise make it the fall guy. My ego is an essential aspect of my avatar, and I think he's pretty cool when he's not running the archonic programming. When he's connected with Source and aligned in his four bodies, my ego can do miraculous things. So can yours.